Good afternoon. Welcome to the Heritage Foundation and our Lewis Lehrman Auditorium. We, of course, welcome those who join us on our heritage.org website on all of these occasions. Would ask our in-house guests if they'll be so kind to check cell phones to see that they have been muted as we prepare to begin. And, of course, our internet viewers are always welcome to send questions or comments simply emailing speaker@heritage.org. Welcoming our guest this afternoon and opening our program is Dr. James J. Carafano, Vice President for our Catherine and Shelby Cullom Davis Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy Studies. He directs all of Heritage's team work on foreign and defense policy issues. He's an adjunct professor at Georgetown University, the Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, and the Institute of World Politics, and has served as a visiting professor at the National Defense University. In addition to authoring numerous books on selected military and policy-related subjects, he is the editor of Changing Face of War book series, which examines how emerging political, social, and economic and cultural trends will affect the nature of armed conflict in the future. Please join me in welcoming Jim Carafano. Jim?
So we have an extraordinary opportunity to have the ambassador here today to speak, and I'm just very excited. So I have been in this business in Washington for over 20 years, so I've seen times when Pakistan and the United States talk a lot to each other and times when they don't, and I can tell you that times when they talk to each other are a lot better. Heritage Foundation is deeply interested in South Asia, and Pakistan is such a central and important country in that community. Whether it's through our public programs or commentary or commercial testimony, we have always been at the forefront of promoting freedom and democracy and prosperity in Pakistan, as well as a strong counterterrorism relationship between the United States and Pakistan. As U.S. and NATO forces draw down in Afghanistan, and as the Middle East faces really almost tectonic political shifts, including the rise of ISIS, which also has started to make inroads in South Asia, Pakistan is literally at the crossroads, and never before has the growth of a prosperous and free and stable and peaceful Pakistan, peaceful with its neighbors, and been crucial to the fate of global security. So there were two promising developments last week that provided some real encouragement on this front. Pakistan recently hosted peace talks between the Taliban and Afghan leadership outside of Islamabad, and the Prime Minister had a meeting with Prime Minister Modi for the first dialogue between the two regional rivals in over a year. We are so hopeful that these meetings will be carried forward and contributed to peace in the region. So to discuss where we are as friends and where we are going, we have really an extraordinary opportunity. The ambassador is the special assistant to the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the Minister of State and Foreign Affairs. He is a career diplomat for over 35 years, including holding diplomatic assignments in Pakistani missions abroad, including Moscow, New York, Washington, and Beijing, not insignificant assignments. He was additional foreign secretary and later worked in the Prime Minister's office in charge of defense production, and foreign affairs. He was a delegate to the UN General Assembly sessions from 1982 to 1986. He was also a member of the UN-sponsored Geneva negotiations on Afghanistan. He served as the High Commissioner of Pakistan to Zimbabwe and later served as ambassador to the United States. Welcome back. Jordan, Belgium, Luxembourg, and finally the European Union until he retired in 2004. And, you know, in America, we have what we call the Energizer Bunny, which is the bunny that never stops running. So welcome Pakistan's Energizer Bunny, and one of the most preeminent figures in its diplomatic corps.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be back. I agree with you. There's no place like Washington. And my kids have grown up here, gone to school, so I have a very special affection for this city. And at the same time, I have gone many a time up the hill from where I've just come down to this place after spending an entire day knocking at the doors of our friends in the Senate and the House. And I did that for years in the 80s, and I did it in the 90s. So it's like going back to the old chores. But I'm happy to be here, and Heritage is an institution with which I have always prided my association. And the many an afternoon and evening I have spent here in earlier days in another location, You are in far more comfortable setting, I see, which is good. Congratulations. And Lisa is an old friend of Pakistan, and I see some very familiar faces, which gives me a great deal of happiness and joy to be back amongst people that I have known for years. So thank you very much for your invitation. I'm here at a moment when Pakistan-US relations are not only at their best in many, many years, but the prospects are most encouraging. I think that in the past 2 years, thanks to the efforts of President Obama and Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, we have now an understanding and a cooperation that is not only deep, but is meaningful. We have not only succeeded in resurrecting an institutional dialogue process that covers the vital areas of energy, education, health, terrorism, as well as non-proliferation and security issues, but we are actually now cooperating on many important and sensitive issues, some of which I'll be talking about a later time. But let me begin with home. When we were drafting the party manifesto in early 2013, the Prime Minister had made it very clear to us what the priorities would be. And he had said that first and most important would be setting the economy right. And under the rubric of the economy, setting the economy right, power shortage, energy shortages in Pakistan would occupy a lot of our time and effort. On the economic front, I want to tell you that we have been able to make a small improvement. We have moved from 2.1% growth rate annually to 4.6. It's still very small and it's still very inadequate because we are a population of 180, 90. When I went over the weekend, and now there may be a few million added to it because that's one thing we do very well. But it's a fairly large country, even though we are neighbors to two of the biggest countries in the world. As regards energy, a lot of time has been spent. We have gone around knocking doors, asking friends to help us out. And some good news in that we have finally signed agreements that should add 10,800 megawatt to the national grid within the next 24 months. That time frame is very critical because we do not want to enter the election year with continuing load shedding. Load shedding, we have added a word to the language. It simply means blackouts. But more importantly, we are looking at adding nearly 20,000 megawatts in the next 5 to 7 years. And you will ask, how can you do so on such a large scale in such a period of time? And this is where 3 major hydel power projects that should bring in 14,000 megawatts, the Dasu, the Damar Bhasha, and the Bunji, will add to the national grid. The 10,800 that we are talking about right now will come from coal, both imported and our own. It will come from LNG. It will come from wind. It will also come from solar. Success is critical, not only to our economy, not only to our government, but to the well-being, to peace in Pakistan. I want to tell you, because the people are deeply agitated at these long hours of extreme discomfort, particularly in the summer months. Pakistan has also done well as regards governance. I wish to assure you that there has been no scandal, no major hiccups, no complaints by the international donor agencies. In fact, there has been a definite improvement. We are doing far better than what we did in the past. The strengthening of the economy has also brought us very good reviews from institutions such as Standard & Poor, from even IMF reports, our agreement with them has not only been honored, but it has been fulfilled. Moody's has now raised our classification as well. And some economists have gone so far as to claim that we could be one of the major emerging economies in the next 10 years. Keep our fingers crossed and continue praying. That's an essential element in our daily chore as well, as you know. So that's on the domestic front. In the field of foreign policy, we had been told very clearly that reaching out to neighbors and establishing a peaceful neighborhood should be the objective of the government of Pakistan. Why? Very simply, we are convinced that there can be neither peace nor development in Pakistan unless we are able to establish good relations with our neighbors. And obviously, when you talk of neighbors, Afghanistan is extremely important. It became even more important when we recognized that the United States would be disengaging from that country. And while it would be inappropriate of me to make any comment on that decision, there is no doubt that the US disengagement would mean greater challenges for us. And therefore, we started working on promoting good relations with Kabul. We didn't have much success in the first few months, but with the election of President Ashraf Ghani, things have moved forward visibly and speedily. I can claim that we have had more interaction between the two countries at the highest level of the elected government as well as the military leadership in the past 6 months than we had in the past 6 years. The army chiefs have visited each other. Intelligence chiefs have done so. Interior Ministry officials have done so. Finance ministers, commerce ministers, you name them. The Prime Minister has visited. The Afghan President has come to Pakistan. And finally, in the common objective of the two countries to promote a reconciliation between Kabul and Taliban, we had the first overt, publicly acknowledged success a few weeks ago on the 7th of July, just outside Islamabad. It is a small step, but we wish to transform it into a process rather than merely an event. We hope that we will continue to use our influence, limited as it is, in furthering deeper engagement between the Taliban and the Kabul government. And yet at the same time, I wish to affirm before you that our resolve to take on the challenge represented by the militants and the terrorists has been further strengthened. As many of you are aware, a year ago, 13 months ago, a military operation was launched on a scale and with a strategy that was unprecedented. We had to pull our troops out from the eastern frontier, from peacetime locations, and send them to the northwest frontier province, as well as to what is known as FATA, frontier and tribal areas. Nearly 190,000 troops, soldiers, officers, guns, tanks, artillery, and even F-16s and helicopters to destroy hundreds of safe havens, communication centers, ammunition dumps, and with no consideration for ethnicity, nationality, party affiliation. All those who do not lay down their arms and accept the writ of the state will be either eliminated or they will be thrown out of the country. We have also had to pass an amendment to the Constitution to institute military courts. We have had thousands of these people in jails. We don't have the facility. We don't have the means. We can't have the security agencies looking after these people, and some of them have been there for years, having been sentenced to death. So we have now actually hanged quite a few people. While it may not be a news that upsets people in America, but I want to tell you our European friends are up in arms. How can you do this? Very simply, because these are savages. They deserve no mercy. On one occasion, a group of our soldiers were captured by these terrorists. Their heads were chopped off, and the terrorists played football with the heads of the soldiers, made a video of it, and sent it to the media. Who in Pakistan would want to show any mercy to such people? And therefore, I want to tell you that this is a temporary phenomena to meet an emergent situation. It is not as if we have gone on a killing spree, but we were left with no option. Incidents such as that which took place in Peshawar, where 150 kids roughly were massacred, young kids in the school, it only served to further steel our nerves. Rather than weaken our resolve, it strengthened our resolve. Because we, once again, were given the lesson that these are terrorists that should be treated and brought to justice to their logical conclusion. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very successful campaign. The Prime Minister has made it very clear that this will continue. But we see a light at the end of the road. Why? Because there is now only a very small enclave known as Shawal on the border with Afghanistan, which is left to be cleared. In fact, from other areas of FATA, where the people had to be taken into the cities, into our urban centers, the army is actually now taking them back. And for that, we are spending huge amounts of money, creating the infrastructure so their houses can be rebuilt, their schools can be rebuilt, the mosques can be rebuilt, and they can be given gainful employment. So that process is. All of this, the military operation and then the resettlement, has meant huge expenses, which we had not envisaged. But the resolve is there. So you see, on one track, we have a better cooperation, a far deeper understanding with President Ashraf Ghani, who I may add is a good man, a man with a very clear thinking and a strong resolve. And we see in him an excellent partner, and together we can pursue the common objectives. With Iran, we have always had good relations. We hope and pray that the nuclear deal and the lifting of the sanctions, inshallah, will provide us with fresh avenues of enhancing our economic cooperation with Iran. We have a common border. We should have greater trade. We should have greater economic cooperation. And especially, we are very much looking forward to beginning work on a long dormant gas pipeline project, which at one time used to be known as Iran-Pakistan-India gas pipeline. The Indians they tell us they are no longer interested, so it will be a gas pipeline from Iran to Pakistan. It's absolutely vital for us. There should be no doubt that we will go for it as soon as the sanctions are lifted. Relations with China, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to tell you, they have always been excellent. If anything, they have been further fortified, they have been further enhanced as a result of the long association that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has had with China. Incidentally, many of the major projects that have been successfully concluded between the two countries were formalized and signed during Prime Minister's earlier stints in office. And therefore, it was but natural that the first country he visited after assuming office was China. In fact, that was the request from China that he should come to Beijing. And in July 2013, he was there, and we discussed the concept of a major project that would actually embrace within itself a dozen other projects that would include energy, infrastructure, communication, health, education, the whole gamut. And those concepts, those ideas finally matured in the form of nearly 50 agreements. I think, to be more exact, 56, I think, if I remember. There were so many I lost count. That were signed during the visit of the Chinese President Xi Jinping to Islamabad in April this year. They also envisage roughly $46 billion of investment in Pakistan. Now, so as not to worry you, I want to tell you that 35 of the $46 billion will be spent on energy projects, power projects, whether they be coal, they be hydel, they be solar, and they be wind. In fact, we have already had success. A small solar project has already been inaugurated, and a wind one in Chimpir in Sindh is already operational. The Chinese companies will seek partners in Pakistan and elsewhere. And this is where opportunities are there for American companies to come in and join hands in setting up these energy projects in Pakistan. The other big chunk will go into what we call infrastructure projects related to Gwadar city. Gwadar will get a modern port, a modern airport, a highway connecting it to Karachi, and finally a state-of-the-art hospital as well as a university for the local kids of that area. We also envisage a whole web of motorways and highways that will be connecting Pakistan, more specifically the city of Kashgar in Urumqi, with Gwadar port, and then onwards from Gwadar to Karachi. And then from Karachi to Lahore, we will be building a motorway because Nawaz Sharif had started working on it in his earlier term, and we had only completed Islamabad to Lahore when we got thrown out by the military dictatorship. So the Lahore to Karachi will be built, and it will go through the city of Multan. And why Multan? Because the ambassador comes from Multan and we had to please him as well. So it will go through the city of Multan. So you will actually have a motorway, 8-lane motorway from Karachi to Multan, to Lahore, to Islamabad, to Peshawar, and finally to Kabul. Because connectivity with Afghanistan is an important element of our political and economic relations with Afghanistan. We'll also have many other roads being built. Also, a large sum of money is being set aside for upgradation of our railway system from Karachi to Peshawar. The railways were built by the British, and they are a fantastic legacy, but they are nothing more than a legacy. We want to really turn it into a mass transport system from Karachi to Peshawar, both for men and for material. Let me now come to your favorite subject, relations with India. I wish I had equally encouraging news, except I see a small glimmer of hope in the meeting that took place between the prime ministers of the two countries on the 10th of this month in the city of Ufa. And you will have to go back to your geography lessons to know where it is. It's deep in the belly of Russia, a southern city in the Bashkir Republic. The occasion was a summit of the leaders of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization to which India and Pakistan were candidates, we have both been admitted into this organization. We believe it will be a very important vehicle that will encourage better political understanding and economic cooperation amongst the member states. Anyway, that particular occasion became the moment for a meeting between the prime ministers, and this was the first contact between them since our prime minister went to Delhi in June 2014 to participate in the swearing-in ceremony of the Indian prime minister. At that time, we had come out of the meeting very excited because it had been agreed that India would send its foreign secretary to Islamabad so that the two countries could begin a process of speaking to each other. We are neighbors, but we don't talk to each other. And when we do, we speak the same language, and yet we don't understand each other. So there is obviously something strange about it. And the Pakistani Prime Minister has for years and years been a strong public advocate of a relationship of cordiality and cooperation between the two countries. He said so during the election campaign. He has said so after being elected to office. And he really believes in it. And we are so desirous of it. But instead of the June 2014 meeting being followed up with concrete manifestation of a mutual desire to move forward, relations have been caught up in a web of allegations, charges, recriminations, the rest of it, which have only added to the tension between the two countries. We were somewhat even surprised that, some of the ministers in India were actually threatening us by highlighting the fact that India had gone and carried out a small attack on Myanmar. And when the Indian Defense Minister said, we can do to Pakistan what we have just done to Myanmar, which I thought was strange because I didn't know that anyone should confuse Pakistan with Myanmar. But anyway, now what has been decided in UFA is that because we have concerns about terrorism, they feel that we are involved in interference in India. We have evidence of Indian interference in Pakistan. So the only right thing is the national security advisors of the two countries should meet, talk about these. How do we bring an end to these acts of interference? How do we create a mechanism to monitor that these things do not take place? So one. Two, because one side or the other is always lobbing shells and the border areas remain disturbed and innocent people get killed in the villages. So we have decided that the chiefs of the border police, in our case the Rangers, in their case the border security forces, should be meeting, followed by a meeting of the Directors General of Military Operations from the two headquarters should be meeting. We hope, we pray that this will actually mean a resumption of the dialogue between the two countries that has remained suspended for many years. In the meanwhile, in order to create a better atmospherics between the two countries and to give people some hope, the Prime Minister suggested that these poor fishermen, they get caught, they get arrested and they languish in jails. So now the two sides are committed to releasing all fishermen within 15 days along with their boats. It's a small gesture, but it will be appreciated by the people. The other thing we have agreed upon is that lots of people in both Pakistan and India wish to visit the other country for what is known as religious purposes. And so the two countries should facilitate the travel of those who wish to travel for religious purposes. That's also a good CBM. And we have agreed on that. Our Prime Minister also suggested that the two commerce ministers in their last meeting before the process was suspended in January 2014 had agreed on certain measures to open up trade between the two countries. And would it not be a good idea if this could be resumed by either their guy coming in or our Commerce Minister going on? So yes, we are at a point in time where, I'll just take 2 more minutes, sir, where things are looking up. We, as I stated, we are very satisfied with the state of our relations. I have had excellent meetings in State Department, the NSC, on the Hill. The ambassador has really been making me earn my lunches up and down Cannon and Rayburn and Longworth. It all brings me back memories of the 80s, but then I was a young, now I'm an old man. Anyway, so the relationship has been moving steadily forward in the right direction. The trajectory is all right. We are agreeing in on what needs to be done. More importantly, Pakistan-US relations is absolutely critical, not only bilaterally, but for peace in Afghanistan, for stability in South Asia, and finally, as you indicated in your introduction, new threats are emerging, not far away from us. And these threats can only be taken on by enhanced cooperation between Pakistan and the United States. We have a track record of a very old friendship. We now need to reinforce those ties to bring greater substance and meaning into those relations, especially in areas where the people of Pakistan can feel that this relationship is actually benefiting them. Thank you very much, sir.
So can you take some questions?
Yeah, I'll take any number of
That would be
questions.
awesome. So if you would wait, I'll recognize you if you'd wait for the microphone, and when the microphone comes, if you would just state your name and affiliation so the people that are listening online can hear it, that'd be great. So we'll start in the back, the young lady there.
Hi, I'm Rena Patel. I'm a political science student at Bryn Mawr College. I wanted to ask, the Pew Research Center has recently classified the Pakistani government as high in terms of restrictions on religious freedom. Do you feel had religious freedom been a priority early on in Pakistan's history that there wouldn't be so much of a disproportionate power flow to Islamist groups today?
Je ne sais pas. I didn't get it.
So she's question is about Pakistan's record on religious liberty.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
And
Okay.
I think if you do
Okay.
an assessment of where you're going from here, it'd be good.
Okay, yes, thank you very much, young lady. Pakistan today is a democracy. Our parliament is as vociferous and as forceful as your Congress. We have the courts, which as an executive sometimes, I in fact worry they are becoming far too independent, but don't quote me outside, please. We have a media that can trash the Prime Minister any day and does love to do it. So therefore, all these issues are in front of us. We are aware of these concerns. But have we reached the point where we are satisfied? No, of course not. But we have ministers from the minority communities. We have members of parliament from the minority communities. We have people in very senior positions in the armed forces at the rank of generals who are from the minority communities. But certainly more needs to be done. The Constitution, of course, is very clear. There shall be no discrimination. But I'm not talking merely of the letter of the law, the spirit of the law. We are moving forward. Yes, there are certain, what should I say, things left over from the long periods of authoritarian rule, of military dictatorships. Incidentally, you may wish to know, you are much too young, that all these military dictators were darlings in Washington. Not for us, because we suffered from them. And the country suffered from their presence. And the people suffered from their presence. So our commitment to democracy is irrevocable. And we shall stand by it, and we'll continue to strengthen those institutions. Thank you.
Question over here.
Thank you very much. Raghuveer Goyal. I'm a journalist with India Globe and Asia Today. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. My question is two-part question. One, of course, the two prime ministers are very close today, and both are want peace in the region and in both countries. And of course, the people in India and Pakistan, they all also for peace. They don't want any conflict. My question is that India is seeking only one thing, that Abraham Dawood must be handed over to India if you or Pakistan knows where he is. And second, sir, many people believe in Pakistan and also here that Pakistan is today run by government within government. I do not know if you think that means military and the civilian. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I do remember seeing you from one of my lectures many, many years ago at Brookings. Yes, thank you very much. Dawood Ibrahim or Ibrahim Dawood, we don't know where he is. I frankly am not even aware that he is alive, dead or alive, whether he's in Pakistan. There are people, who have committed acts of terror and have disappeared. We don't know. That is not important, focusing on an individual. What is important is to focus on the issue. And which is why the Prime Minister has been telling the Indian Prime Minister that we need to institutionalize our talks. Why talk of an individual here or there? I could name a few elsewhere. No. Let us set up a mechanism whereby Indian concerns can be met and our concerns can be met. You see, if the two countries are to live at peace with each other, and I agree with you that the people do want peace on both sides of the border, there is no doubt about it. That is why it becomes incumbent on the political leadership to carve out a way. And in the process, friends should also help us. The United States is a friend of both Pakistan and India. And the United States should be nudging us, should be encouraging us to sit down and talk and resolve these issues, which we will. As regards your second question, I am only aware of one government of which I am a member, and the government is headed by Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who has a solid majority in Parliament. Yes, let me elaborate because this is an issue of interest to many people. What the Prime Minister has done is his style of governance, and it's very important for you to understand, his style of governance believes in creating consensus, in talking to all the stakeholders, whether it be military operations against the Taliban, in which we got on board everyone, including the opposition parties. I want to tell you that Nawaz Sharif invites the leaders of all political parties for day-long sessions, on occasions more than one day, and then on an issue of foreign policy where the government doesn't have to talk to anyone under our law. This was the crisis in Yemen. What should Pakistan do? We had a session of parliament. It was debated in parliament. We invited all the leaders. We call it all parties conference. And they sat and they debated and they discussed. And at the end of it, the policy that emerges carries legitimacy and credibility. Thank you.
So we'll come back to the center, but first we'll go over to the side, so the young man and then the young lady.
Thank you. I'm Jay Kansar. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the Hindu American Foundation. We conduct research and publish an annual report on Hindus in countries such as Pakistan and Bangladesh. I recently visited Jodhpur, India, and visited the enclaves of Pakistani Hindus where they are living as refugees. Currently, the latest status is that the government of India will be giving them refugee status and eventually citizenship. What are the how does this figure into the dialogue between India and Pakistan in either asking Pakistani Hindus living in India to come back to Pakistan from the government's end, and what is the government of Pakistan doing to ensure that more don't leave in order to quell the problems at the grassroots level of fundamentalism and religious discrimination? Thank you.
You see, Pakistan is a free country, and any citizen who wishes to leave is free to leave. But I'm not aware of any mass exodus of Pakistani nationals to any country, certainly not to India. In fact, many of them would, of course, wish to come to the United States, but that's beside the point. I think your question is based on a false premise that Pakistani Hindus are going to India and what should the Indian government do? We get thousands of Indian Muslims who want to come to Pakistan. That's not the point. There are always people who wish to go elsewhere and settle down. This has never been taken up by the Indian government at any level, at any stage, and this is not on the agenda of our talks at all. So I don't think it is an issue between the two countries.
Hi, my name is Mariam Harris, and I'm a student at University of Maryland.
A little louder.
Hi, my name is Mariam Harris. I'm a student at the University of Maryland studying international development and security policy. My question is based on the Hudud ordinances. Research suggests that the Hudud ordinances are actually adversely affecting women and their rights, such as women's mobility, right of choice to marry, and independence, especially professionally. What is or has the PMLN government done to repeal the Hudud ordinances?
Two. Okay. I was asked this question by some of the people on the Hill. There are some laws on our statute that we have inherited from the long periods of military rule. We do not wish to repeal them without first creating national consensus at home. We have enough problems, particularly with countering extremism and militancy, to add to our burdens. What we are doing is we are gradually revising our laws, and especially there is a very strong movement in Parliament by the women parliamentarians who number nearly 50, who have brought about various amendments that strengthens the rights of women, an end to discrimination against females, and strengthening the rights of minorities. Also, administrative measures have been taken in a number of provinces to ensure that laws such as the blasphemy law, which is another piece of legislation we would very much wish to get rid of, is not misused. It is a process that is taking time, but it is only taking time because we have not been able to get national support on this issue. But all the mainstream parties are of the view, including of course the PMLN, that many of these laws, whether it is hudud, whether it is blasphemy, whether it is other witness laws, they need to be revised, and we have that very much in mind. Thank you.
So we're going to work our way back to the senator. So the question here, and then we'll work our way.
My name is Benazir Shah. I'm a reporter with Newsweek. You spoke about India's involvement in terrorist activities and insurgent activities in Pakistan. Why hasn't evidence of this been presented on any international platform till now?
Okay. Did you ever hear or see of any evidence provided by any country on terrorism to any international platform? Are you aware of it, young lady? No, are you aware of it? Has the United States presented any evidence as to what was done with A, B, and C, and you know who I mean?
The Pakistan ambassador to the United Nations was called recently to Pakistan to speak about this, and there was talk that she will present evidence at the United Nations. So there has been this narrative developing in Pakistan that RAW has been involved in a lot of insurgents and terrorist activities. But then there's been no concrete evidence. There's been no sort of talk about where or what could be the consequence of this, or which India has been asking.
If and when we have talks between the two countries, with Pakistan and India, we will share it. And I would wish to recall that on one occasion, when the Prime Ministers of Pakistan and India did meet in the Egyptian city of Sharm el-Sheikh, a dossier was actually presented to Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Okay? But what I was trying to tell you, that when intelligence agencies of any country have evidence of this kind of activity, they don't go around printing it in the Newsweek. They don't. Much as you and I would want it to be done, that's not the way it's done because they wish to defend their sources or protect them or whatever. But more important than getting into this business is for the two countries to sit down and resolve their differences. If they have concerns and we have concerns, so you have two options. Either go around beating each other, maligning each other, ridiculing each other, which will add to hostility between the two countries, or sitting down as civilized people, which we presume we are, and then debating, discussing, and finally resolving them. This is the track we wish to follow. And we, after UFA, we are now looking forward to the visit of the National Security Advisor to Delhi. And his visit is exactly in order to meet the concerns of both sides. Both sides. And that is why the two prime ministers have agreed that the two NSAs should be meeting. So let us look at these things in the light of the possibilities of improvement that they have given, rather than wondering where and when we should be presenting these dossiers. Okay.
Yes, sir. My name is Kami Bhatt. I'm with the Pakistani Spectator. And my question is, is there any solution of Afghanistan that is acceptable to both Pakhtun or Pathan on Pakistani part and on Afghanistan part? Because there is such a bad propaganda against Pakistan in this city. I mean, you are leaving, but I don't know if you know Dr. Christine Fair. The minute you leave, she used to be very pro-Pakistan, by the way, she can speak Punjabi. But the minute you leave, she is going to say, oh, this, and Pakistanis are killing American, and Pakistan is the one who made us pack our bag from Afghanistan. And my related question to that lady, I think she is very fair. I asked this question to General Durrani. He used to represent Pakistan here, and he was good in chuking the General Musharraf. I don't know if you know Punjabi, but he was very good with General Musharraf, and he didn't have courage. I asked him this question more than once in platform. There is no doubt, you don't have to be rocket scientist to find out that it's Indian friend who have put Pakistani Balochistan on fire. You don't have to have even 100 IQ to figure it out, but this general was so coward. I mean, no wonder that we lost half Pakistan. Okay. He was so coward, he never dared to say in public, even he never gave my answer, the answer of my question, even in the embassy where there was no American, it's for all Pakistanis.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would really suggest that we should not name names, whether it is American names, Pakistani names, or Indian. We are all cultured, educated people. Please, I would beg of you. It's not fair. No. They are not here. They cannot defend themselves. We should not be talking about it. We should be discussing serious issues. Please. How can you expect me to comment on these things? Christine Fair, I know her. She's a very serious scholar. I respect her. General Durrani is a very distinguished former general and diplomat. I should not be commenting upon this. This is not fair. Do you understand? All I'm stating here in front of you is the truth, that Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif wishes to focus on engagement. He believes that in addition to the historic legacy of issues such as Kashmir and Siachen and Sir Creek, you now have new issues that call for dialogue between the two. How do you discuss water? Both countries are getting water stressed. How do you discuss melting glaciers? And by the way, I must tell you, sorry to go back to the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor projects. These projects are not only meant for China and Pakistan. The Chinese are on record. The Pakistani leadership is on record. It should benefit the entire region, including India. Because India is part of South Asia, and you cannot have genuine growth and development in the region unless you do it along with everybody else. So that is what we wish to aim for. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Nisar Chaudhry with the Pakistan American League. And this should remain open-ended, that whether you are a old-looking young man or a young-looking old man, we'll leave it open. My question is pertaining to the message you gave that you are telling those Taliban in the northern Waziristan, get killed, leave, I will throw you out, or get disarmed. These are the three options they're having. My question is that these Taliban, when you throw them out or when they leave under pressure, do you have any arrangement or engaged in dialogue with Afghanistan not to provide them safety net? So, and then they go back to Pakistan and attack our forces inside Pakistan. And my second part is that many European Union countries are sending their representative already into Iran for deals, for business. Has Pakistan Foreign Office taken any measures or steps, tangible steps to move in that direction? And the gas pipeline, my question is that how much support or help you anticipate from USA in this deal with Iran and Pakistan? Thank you.
Thank you. You have asked 3 questions. Okay. On the Taliban or the terrorists, the militants, we shall either eliminate them or force them to leave. But there is the beauty of the new development. Because of our enhanced understanding with Afghanistan, we now are actually engaged in real-time intelligence sharing. We don't want to simply push this problem away from our border into somebody else's. Do you get me? So it's not as, so we are working closely with Afghanistan, the security agencies, the intelligence agencies, and with the passage of time, this cooperation will increase and it will be further enhanced. Okay, that is the first thing. The second thing is on Iran, you said, right? On Iran, I've already stated that we did not wish, in fact, we could not violate the sanctions and enter into economic cooperation with Iran, even though we were very much in favor of it. In fact, we had given a non-paper to the Obama administration in the early months of our term in office, in which we had highlighted the importance of this project and the need for us to move ahead with it. Now, whether the Europeans are rushing in or not, that's not for me to comment, We in Pakistan, I will go far to say, we are monitoring the developments. We have already officially welcomed the conclusion of the agreement. We believe it will strengthen peace, bringing Iran out from the cold and mainstreaming it into the international community should strengthen the stability of the region. And Iran is a neighboring country. We have a 1,000-kilometer long border. We have common ethnic, linguistic, cultural linkages with that country. We would, of course, want to have normal relations with Iran. So we are very closely monitoring that. Yes, sir.
I have one last question. Before they do that, I want to ask our South Asia analyst, Lisa Curtis, if she would like to make a comment.
Please.
Thank you very much for those comprehensive remarks. I heard you speak on Tuesday at the another event, and it was just as enlightening hearing you again today. Thank you for coming to the Heritage Foundation. I'm Lisa Curtis, Senior Research Fellow on South Asia here at Heritage. My question is related to ISIS and the inroads. ISIS. The inroads that we see the group trying to make, particularly in Afghanistan, but also with some of the TTP factions in Pakistan. And I think they have claimed responsibility for a horrific attack on Ismaili Shia in Karachi in May. What do you think is the threat? Is there a threat that ISIS will be able to make inroads into either Afghanistan or Pakistan? And if so, how will that impact Pakistan's policies toward the regional partners. Will that play into Pakistan's calculations in terms of its security relationships with other countries in the region, Afghanistan, Pakistan, even Iran?
Thank you, Lisa. So far, we have no evidence of ISIS presence in Pakistan. The Karachi terrorist attack has fingerprints of others. But it's still going on. The investigation is going on. But it is a threat. There is no doubt about it, and it's getting bigger by the day. In fact, we believe, and as I stated earlier, that this whole issue of counter-terrorism against any militant, any terrorist, is an ideal subject on which all of us need to work together. All sovereign states are confronted with this threat, and we need to enhance information sharing, we need to enhance intelligence sharing and real-time cooperation amongst our security and intelligence agencies. The entire Middle East, post the Arab Spring, quote unquote, which is no longer spring, could be a bitter cold winter ahead, has actually unleashed forces that could metamorphose into huge threats to the whole concept of state sovereignty. And it is a worrying development. It is worrying not simply because it could be a threat to us, but because these states themselves, we have huge interest in the stability of these states. We have strong interest. I don't know if you know, we have nearly 2 million Pakistanis working in Saudi Arabia. We have 1.5 million in the UAE, and so on and so forth, all over the region. Now, they are there. Will they be catching this virus? What attitudes will be they taking to these problems? In this context, I wish to recall to you that about 5-6 years ago, I was in a seminar in a European city. And this was the time when many European countries were quite excited at the fact that many of their young people were going and joining the fight in Syria. And I had my very serious doubts whether this was the right thing. And I say this because we have learned the lesson of our involvement in Afghanistan. I want to make this confession. And which is why we are so strongly resolved to stay away from any involvement in any state. This whole business of a strategic depth and other theories that were propounded to support such policies have been disastrous to us. And therefore, if all of us had learned not to go around destabilizing sovereign states, we may not have been in this situation today. And those that have done should look back and very objectively and soberly analyze whether their interventions have helped or harmed regional peace or even global stability. Thank you, Lisa.
So Lisa actually stole my question.
Okay, so, you can come up with another one.
No, I just wanted to, again, thank you. This has been a very open and vigorous discussion, and that is the healthiest kind of dialogue. So sincerely, thank you so much, and please join me in thanking the ambassador for his remarks.
Thank you for the invitation.